Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you so much for watching the Once in Orphan podcast. I'm Jasmine. Joining me today is Miss Patrice. Patrice is another adoptee who is going to share her story of adoption with us. So thank you, Patrice, for joining me today. As always, I am elated, overly excited that someone would join me on this platform to share such heartfelt stories. Now, as we've already discussed, you are an adoptee, but let's start with where you were adopted.
Yes, so I'm originally from California, Long Beach, outside of LA, on the outskirt, but still in LA though. I was adopted at the age of 3.5. Um, my brother was, let's see, he was 12. Well, no, 11, turning 12. The both of us was adopted together. Um, what's crazy is that I kind of already knew that I was adopted, not because of the family or whatever. I just because of me being in the system from an infant to um 3 years old, I was always moved from house to house to house. Now me and my brother, we wasn't in the same house together at first. So I was by myself. So I didn't know I had a sibling until my fifth foster home, and my social worker had spoken to my foster mom, and they had a discussion about it, and then they both came to me and was telling me at the age of 2, that you got a little brother, you got a big brother. And I was like, oh yay, I'm tired of being by myself, you know what I mean? So we went to a park around the corner from my foster mom's house, and we met up there to meet my brother. Now we pulled up. I had like this blue. I had a blue overalls and a purple shirt with my hair all with the little pigtail, the little barrettes at the end. I was just
Of
super
course.
excited and happy to see him. Um, and when I was so eager and excited to see him, I was like, I was ready to take my seatbelt off and just run out of the car. And it was like, okay, Patrice, slow down. We're going to get you out of the seat in just a second. And I'm like looking outside the window of the car, trying to figure out where he at, because there's so much people outside, at the park and stuff like that. So eventually, I step out of the car with my foster mom and the social worker, and they bring us up to the playground. And then I see him walking. As soon as we both made eye contact, they let us go. We ran to each other, and I just held on to him, hugged him for so long. And then we played for about maybe 2 to 3 hours. And the next thing you know, they had to take him back to where his foster house was, and then we had to pretty much be split apart for a little bit until they eventually was working on our case to have the both of us in one home together. And once we were in one
Yeah.
home together, um, that's when they eventually had people to come visit us and, different families like that. And then eventually they had picked a family for us to be together to adopt us.
Yeah. And all of this happened in Cali.
Yes, ma'am.
You say you always knew you were adopted. You knew at an early age. How did you know?
Hmm. I don't know. I think it was just a sense of, because like the people I was, like, I guess, hanging around with, like, because I had a white foster mom, then I had different type of cultures in a way, and I'm like, okay, well, I know I'm not. This is not where I'm supposed to be. I don't look like them. This is. I don't know. It's just I already had a feeling that I wasn't where I was supposed to be. If it makes sense, I don't know if it does, but for me, I kind of sensed it already, and it's kind
Yeah,
of
yeah. No, it
crazy.
makes perfect sense. Now, were your adoptive parents white or were they black?
No, they were black. Actually, what's crazy is
Okay,
that
so you are.
Yeah, I was adopted with African American family. Yes. They actually, I'm not gonna lie, they matched us pretty good to where we actually kind of did look like them in a way.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
it could per se somewhat look normal, but
yeah,
me and my brother already knew we wasn't with our biological family anyway.
yeah.
So,
The I think the agencies tend to, I don't know if they look at the parents and then look at the child, because, like I just told you a moment ago, people really did think I looked like my father. So by the time I
hmm.
talked about my adoption and I told my friends, a few responses were, "But you look like them. What are you talking about?" And I'm like, "Well, they fed me. My dad, he fed me. So, he took care of me. So that's probably why you would feel that way." So when you learned you were adopted, did you know what adoption meant?
Yeah, so at the time I just was like, okay, well, I'm not with my real family, so, this is just a temporary thing until, well, whenever my family come and get me. That's what I was thinking in my head. My brother on the other end, he was kind of going through the same, idea, but like I said, I didn't really know his story yet until I got older, and then that's when he told me some information, and I'm like, okay.
So your brother gave you information. What information did your adoptive parents give you about your biological family?
So they didn't have much information upon our biological family. The only thing they had, and that my brother had too, was that we had our birth certificate. So our birth certificates has our biological parents' names on it. So I have a birth certificate with my biological parents on it, and my brother also has, his birth certificate with his biological parents on it, with our biological parents on it. And then when we got adopted, they recreated another birth certificate with our adopted parents' names on it.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's usually how it goes. I've never seen my original birth certificate. I'm not
I
sure if
have.
it would actually give. Yeah, I'm not even sure if my original birth certificate would give me the information that I would actually need, which is my biological father's first name, because I already knew my biological mother, and I was like, I mean, the birth certificates back in New York all kind of look the same, and when I knew her name, I was like, all I have to do is replace my mother's name with my biological mother's name, and the birth certificate is going to look the same. There's no need to go ahead and get another one, because I honestly did not think that my biological father's name would be on the birth certificate. So, I mean, I guess I'll do it one of these days and just see if I'm surprised by anything. But now, Patrice, when you reflect, rather, go back to the little girl who was adopted. Good experience, bad experience.
Um, 50-50. It was good and it was bad. Um, I actually took it upon myself to where when I was in school that I would keep that as a secret, honestly. I did not want people to know that I was adopted. For some reason, I don't know, that was just I guess a scar for me, maybe, in a way
Of
of
course.
just, being, I've always wanted a family. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm with the family now that loves me and, provide for me, take care of me. So I'm like, okay, well, why tell people that I'm adopted? So I looked at somewhat like the father in a way and the mother, kind of both. So I was like, why tell people if I'm adopted? Like it don't matter really. But once my adopted brother, now they had one child, the adopted family I was in, but they couldn't produce any more kids, so that's why they went for adopting children. So
Gotcha.
they got us. We were actually on, me and my brother were on the news. Now back then it was called Monday's Child in California. Now here in Atlanta it's called Wednesday Child. They saw us on the
Yeah.
news. I don't know where that clip is at actually. I do have the paper form that it says Monday's Child with my picture on it and my brother picture on it, having our little information about what we like to do and stuff like that. So, um, yeah, so I always kind of kept that a secret towards the public. Um, my adopted brother, um, was friends with one of my classmates in school when I was in like middle school, and somehow that kid overheard my adopted brother talking, and he found out that I was adopted. So he started bullying me in school and was like, "Oh, well, that's why you're adopted. Your mama didn't want you and stuff." And that kind of took a big toll on me. So I just was like, I hated a lot of kids. I didn't want that to be out with people saying that I was adopted and stuff. So that was a big bruise for me for sure.
Yeah. And
Until
Patrice,
uh-huh.
no, go ahead.
Um and then once, he did that to me, I told my adopted parent, of course. And she was just telling me, to it's gonna be okay, don't worry about that, we love you anyway, and just try to cheer me up about it. But at the same time, still I'm like, I did not want that to be out whatsoever.
Yeah. You were a kid. You didn't want to deal with that bullying. And see, like you,
Yeah.
I also didn't like for people to know that I was adopted. And see, when I think about it now, for so many reasons, I was not conceived out of love. I was conceived by a woman who was highly addicted to drugs and some man whom I have no knowledge of. And now I have to carry that shame of one being adopted, but one being the child of a crackhead, right? So it was
Hmm.
easier for me to just pretend like I was not adopted. Clearly obvious, okay? I don't look like anyone in the family, but that shame I had to carry. So for you, you didn't want to carry that shame. You didn't want to carry the shame of knowing that you were abandoned at birth, or even if that was the story, because so many times we associate adoption with abandonment, and that's not always the case. There are cases when it could be a teenage mom whose parents are like, no, we're going to take this baby from you and place the baby in the system because you're too young to be a mom and that type of thing. But I know for me that I was not conceived out of love. I was conceived by a drug addict and whomever else, and abandoned at birth. So you don't want to live in that as a little girl. You want to have
Yeah.
the experience as your friends who look like their parents, who look like their siblings, and that type of thing. So for you, and I mean, we already discussed your age. You were a lot younger than me, but I mean, you're talking like in the early 2000s, right? Where all of
Hmm.
this would have been happening. And now you got to deal with, like, dad, I feel like sometimes the kids today are even more cruel than they were
Oh
when you were
yeah,
coming up.
I've I've definitely heard it.
Yeah, and you didn't want to live in that. That's too much for you to actually live in. And despite the fact that you can go home and you can talk to mom and you can say, hey, so and so said this about me today. Oh, don't worry about it. We love you. You still going to sleep with that on your mind. Oh, your mother didn't
Hmm.
want you. Oh, yeah. So it's kind of like, well, how helpful was that? Don't worry, we still love you. Was that
Right.
helpful at all?
It, not so much because I still had to go back to the school and hear the same stuff all over again. But then I brought that attention up to my adopted brother because he was the one that told, the boy's parents about it. But I guess for his sake, he was just, because he was friends with them, and, he was just excited to have siblings, So I get the point, but at the same time, there's, certain boundaries of where you have to, draw the line. Or I mean, he probably could have not said, we were, this my, you
Yeah.
know, adopted sister, you know what I'm saying? But
And see,
I don't know.
because So what's the age gap between you and the older brother who just let it out?
Um, okay, let's see. About about 15 years. Yeah.
Okay, so he's a lot older.
Yes.
Okay, so and my reason for asking is because I mean he was still a kid at the time, and so you kind of make
Yeah.
room for kids and their things. And I mean, he didn't know any better either. He didn't think it would cause so much, rift. But
Yeah.
now as an adult, he probably wouldn't do that. And that's the thing that gets me because this is when I started to take ownership of my story when other adults wanted to talk about my adoption before me. And I was like, whoa, don't talk about my story. Talk about yours. Talk about your stories of infidelity and your stories of obesity. Talk about what pertains to you. And so
Hmm.
I had to learn, oh, okay, this is my story, let me tell it. So and then I can leave the rest of your life up to you because you don't want me to tell your story. I can add a whole lot to it. And it really just
Right.
meant that you had to take ownership of your story because while you didn't want to talk about it then, now you are. What was the change? There had to be some pivot where you said, you know what, I can talk about this now. What was that for you?
Um, what changed for me was that once, life moved on and, as you get older, things change. And then I experienced with my brother, my blood brother, actually passing away from a car accident in 2018. Once that, you know, situation happened, it really was an eye opener for me to actually, you know, look for my biological family because at the time I was 17 when I lost my brother. He was 24. So, yeah, he died at a young age. And when we were younger and in his teens, he tried to look for our family, but he wasn't able to. The only thing that he found was like his childhood friends that he would hang out with, but he still didn't get any results. So I took it upon myself to actually trying to find our family. And that's kind of when you know, when things changed for me.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I hear my dogs.
Okay.
So now you have the strength, and what we discussed, you are ready to document your
Yes, I
journey.
am.
Yeah, baby. This is what I love. And I love that for other adoptees. I absolutely love that for us because we get to take back our power. And you're going to document some things that we're not going to discuss. I mean, we just need y'all to follow her on Instagram because these are stories that connects us. These are stories that creates that bond. And like, I always say this, and I don't know if it actually ever reaches anyone, but everyone has a story. It may not be adoption, it may not be abandonment, it may not be molestation. We all have a story. I mean, if you look at Miss Winfrey, right? We know
Hmm.
Miss Winfrey.
Right.
And she shared her story. She was a victim of rape and she went on through life and look at her now, like America's or the biggest media guru to ever exist. We all have a story. So sometimes you can look at Patrice, sometimes you can look at Jasmine, sometimes you can look at Miss Winfrey and be like, oh my God, they got it made. But you don't understand what it took for her to actually get to where she is right now. And this is the reason why we want to make sure we follow your journey. And as you document this, because everything can't be said right now. And this is the reason why we have to make sure we keep up and follow because there's
Yes.
going to be a lot of information that you release through your documentary that we're not going to discuss here. Now, Patrice, when you and I encourage you to do that, I will be the first to watch and do whatever because we it's okay. And I think the bottom line that I always want people to understand is that it's okay. And I want them to understand it a lot sooner than I did. It's okay that you share your story, that you openly heal. And you can heal how you want. When we come to platforms like this and we choose to share certain things, it's not the most traditional way, but if it works for you, you can heal how you want. I don't have to be laying on somebody's couch. I don't have to get high. I don't have to get drunk. I can heal how I want to heal. And so I encourage you to do that. And I'm so thankful to know that. And that's the reason why your handle is on the screen. We're going to make sure everyone knows, because we really, really, really want people to follow this journey, because we know that it's not easy. Despite what it looks like, we only see Patrice and this beautiful girl who's sitting here just as poised as she is, but we don't know the struggle behind the younger Patrice and what led up to who you are today. So now
Yes.
that you and I said all of that, but I want to go back, because now that you actually when you lost your brother, the
Mm-hmm.
brother who you were adopted with,
Mm-hmm.
now what does that do to you? Because you don't have him anymore. This is the biological
Right.
bond that you've always had, and that space or that thing that connected you, right? Now you lose
Right.
him at 17 years old. What does
Right.
that do?
Um, that I'm not gonna lie, that was like my heart crushed 100%. Um, I actually, it was a hard time for me to where I was done. Like I didn't want to be here no more because I felt like God took my brother away from me due to a car accident. So I was like, man, why should I be here? Because I'm by myself now. Because I don't
Yeah.
have anybody that I was, family bloodline with. Um, but what changed my mind was that every time that I tried to attempt, and I just say it out loud, I tried to attempt to kill myself. I did. But what changed my mind was that every time that I tried to attempt to do it, I can actually see myself trying to do it, but it failed. Every time it failed. I don't know why it failed, but I do believe that God was telling me that, you know, your brother's in a safe place. He's at home, but also I need you here on earth to tell your story and also to protect his kids because my brother had two kids. He raised one, he has a son and he has a daughter. And that's what pushed myself harder to actually be here. Because without them, I don't know where I'd be at, honestly, I don't.
Yeah. Yeah. Patrice, I extend my condolences to you. I'm so sorry. As my search continues for my biological family, I'm just wondering if I'll find out at this point if I have lost any biological family members that I should have had some relationship with, siblings, my biological father, that type of thing. Because when that's the only connection you have, and then you
Mhm.
lose that, I understand how that would do something to you, especially at 17 years old. And then because now you feel like, okay, I'm alone. Now I'm alone again. So that I can see why that would do something to you. And then on top of the fact that you were adopted, so many
Mhm.
adoptees are associated with some sort of suicide ideation, suicide attempt, that type of thing, and
Mhm.
everyone else doesn't understand it. And I'm thankfully I did never had those thoughts, but
Mhm.
the thought of being in the world alone, like there are people around me, yet I'm alone. Why don't I
Mhm.
just do away with it? So you had that biological connection and then you lose it. And at that point, you
Mhm.
decided, I just want to do away with it. Like, there's no point in me being here anymore if my brother's not going to be here. And I'm so
Exactly.
glad that God spared your life. I'm so
Yes.
glad that every attempt failed. I really am. But I hear it more times than not, especially when I speak to other adoptees here, and I'm like, whoa. Um, The last lady that I spoke to, Janine Jackson, she's on
Hmm.
Instagram. She's the author of Hello, Sweet Baby. She didn't know she was
Hmm.
adopted until she was 46 years old. And
Wow.
that was just 7.5 years ago. She said she actually attempted. She thought about, ending her life because, I mean, and even at the age of 46, because now
Hmm.
I've lived a life that was a complete lie this entire time. So it's a lot to actually take in. So you lose your brother, and I know how that can be a lot for you. Did your adoptive parents ever encourage you to find your biological family?
Um, that's a good question, actually. What I can say is that they wasn't. I don't want to say they wasn't against it, but it kind of pushed me back to not try to look for my family because one of the statements that they would say was that, okay, um, if you find your family, that's cool and all, but don't forget about us. They would put that in there. So I'm like, okay, well, should I do it or should I not? But since y'all say, okay, don't forget about y'all, I don't know what y'all think, that y'all gonna lose me or something. I don't know, but I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm just not gonna do it.
Girl,
Yeah.
That's that bothers me. It's so troubling because, and I know if my father was still living, he would be completely against me finding my biological family because I was his little girl. While my
Mm-hmm.
mother encouraged me to, find your biological family. You need to know, you need to do this, you need to do that, da da da. My adoptive father would have been like, absolutely not. You're my daughter. I don't know who these people are. They didn't want you. Tell them to go to hell. I just know my father would have been like that. And so one of my girlfriends asked me the other day, she says, if your father was still living, do you think you would have looked for your biological family? Do you think you would continue looking? And then my answer to her was, I absolutely would. I would have just kept it from him. I wouldn't have been able to tell my father that I was looking for my biological family because I know how he would have responded. And so
Mm-hmm.
this is where it gets complicated. These are the complications that comes with adoption because you have, first of all, adoption requires three parties. It requires the biological parents or mother, because sometimes the biological father may not know. It requires the adoptive
Mm-hmm.
family and it requires the child, but only two parties need to consent. That's the biological family and the adoptive family. So now the
Mm-hmm.
third party gets to a point in life where they're like, hey, let me find this out. But what's going to come with that? Oh, I have to now worry about what hurt my adoptive family may experience. Oh, now I have to worry about what more rejection I could face from my biological family. There's so many things
Mm-hmm.
that comes with wanting to know, but it's so unfair for us not to know. And so, as we
Right.
say all the time, adopted kids don't have the same rights as kept children because kept children know their
Exactly.
parents, they know their siblings, they have access to the medical records, all of that. And we have to go
Right.
down this rabbit hole just to find out the basics of who am I. So
Right.
now at 24 years old, and as because you're just so pretty. At
Thank you.
24 years old, at 24 years old, you're probably working, you're probably doing well for yourself. You might,
Yes.
like everyone else, we face some bumps and some bruises because that's how life, gives it to us. But
Hmm.
on top of that, you are like, well, who am I? You're still living in a part of who am I? Knowing that,
Right.
okay, great possibility. I could have others out there. There's some family members I don't know. And so, how often are those thoughts in your head as you get up to make each day better than it was the day before? Because these things live in us. They
Hmm.
absolutely live. It's embedded in us because your first experience in life was to be disconnected from the very thing that you only had a connection to. And then this
Right.
was your first introduction. So, how is that when you wake up in the morning and when your feet hit the floor and now you have to go on with life, but still putting together the who am I? What does that look like for you?
Oof. Um, honestly, I don't even I don't even know, honestly. I just wake up and just, see myself as, yeah, I'm a young Black African American female that is willing and wanting to figure out who is she. I mean, besides of, what I'm doing now. But far as medical history wise, DNA wise, I didn't know. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Um, how complicated is that though, Patrice, that you know that you live in that and you still have to function and go through life on a day-to-day basis? Because I know what it is for me, but everyone's walk and everyone's journey is different. And so how difficult
Mhm.
is that for you?
Um, I don't want to say it's difficult. I can say it's definitely a journey, not knowing who the full me is until, that day will come when it, appear well, I don't want to say appears, but when the results does come, um, to figure out who the real me is inside. Um, but the only person I can say that I do know is that I am a strong, strong, brave African American young woman for sure.
Yeah. If this video was to come across the computer, TV, phone of, say, one of your biological parents, do you think they would look at you and say, "Oh, I think she belongs to me"? Do you think they would know who you are and be ready to give you some answers?
I believe so, 100%.
Yeah. And that makes all the difference in the world. Because, like I told you, when I finally called my biological mother, she was like, "Wrong number, bye," But when you have that feeling of knowing that they probably would be supportive, that makes all the difference in the world. And that's the reason why you have to continue doing this. That's the reason why you have to document your journey and share with them when the time comes, or if the time comes, the good, the bad, and the uglies. Did you ever at any point hold any resentment toward your biological family?
You know what? No, I haven't.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know if that's crazy or not, but
No, it's not.
no.
No, it's not. And because I share those sentiments, I never felt like, oh, my biological mother is a bum and I can't stand it. I never felt like that. And that's partly due to me having a good adoption experience. And it's the thing about it is that when you lose that love at birth,
Mhm.
um, and then have the love from your adoptive family, it does make it better. But because it's not where it needs to be, it's not a natural type of thing.
Mhm.
It leaves you with the feelings of the it still leaves you with the feelings of, where are they? Who are they? So
Mhm.
when I met my biological mother, I was able to explain to her, I'm not angry with you. I just want answers. And some of those answers she took to the grave. Hey, again, the name of who my biological father doesn't appear to be true. I kind of felt like that. But it does make a difference when you actually had a somewhat positive adoption experience, because
Mhm.
now you can say, hey, I'm not mad at you. Now, had you grown up in an environment that was abusive, or that type of thing, it would alter your feelings about your biological family, because now you guys gave me up and this is what I dealt with. And my problem, and I say this all the time, the adoption laws, they don't care. The states, they don't mandate laws and amend the laws so that it benefits the child. It's like, oh, you want to get rid of this
Correct.
child? Cool. Let me go find a family. You want this baby? All right, cool. And they're going to place that baby wherever they want to place that baby. And they'll just try their best to make sure the child has some sort of DNA connection, whether they put the child in close proximity to the first child or what have you. But now what you have is two kids in one home who come from the same family,
Mhm.
who's wondering, who are we? We know that we're a brother and sister,
Hmm.
but who's who's our family? Did you and your brother ever discuss that? The who am I's with each other?
You know what? No, we never did really.
Yeah,
That's a good question, actually. We never did.
yeah. It would be okay if the two of you did have that conversation, knowing that you came from the same parents or mom, however it went. But now, because you probably would have been on a journey together to find out who are we. It
Yeah.
and it would have been okay. And I don't know why adoptive families want to make that their problem. Don't forget about us. The whole part of don't forget about us really does trigger me, because why would I forget about the people who raised me, when the people who I've only called mom and dad? It's not a matter, because now you're making it about you, and it's not a matter of me
Yeah.
forgetting about you. What about me just wanting to know who I am? And why do you feel like me finding out who I am will make me forget about you? I don't understand that.
Right. And another thing too, I will say is that um dealing with this, yeah, 100%. Was kind of upset with that because I'm like, okay, now you're making me choose, I feel like. And then on
Yeah.
top of that, I don't even know what my medical history is. Honestly, I don't. So every time I would go to the doctor, they would have me to lie and tell the doctors what their medical history family is. But we don't have the same DNA. So how you going to tell me to say this stuff to the doctors?
What?
So I would just play along with it and just, they tell me this and I just say it to the doctor.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And I wonder why adoptive families do that, because, even though they didn't have all the biological children they wanted to have, they still had one.
Hmm.
So that should have been enough for you to say, hey, at least, we have one. Um, so you don't have to lie to people. That should have been the case. You don't have to lie to people, because I mean, growing up for me, is there anything of this? I don't know. I'm adopted. I don't know. And these are things you need to know. You need to know, okay, who has a history of this, diabetes, high blood pressure, all these type
Me
of
and my
things.
brother, me and my brother did not know anything about that.
Interesting.
Hmm.
And to think, though, I think what complicates that is the fact that you were coerced to say, just tell them, we have diabetes, but why I'm not biologically connected to you. Why can't
Right.
I be truthful? Because in a sense, what it did was it took away you being truthful to yourself. You had to lie to yourself then, because now I have to go by this theory that I really did come from them when I didn't come from them. I know I didn't come from them, but I
Right.
have to, now I'm forced to go along with this story. And that's going back to the point that I was making earlier. That's another reason why so many adoptive or biological families put their kids in the system, because they were coerced into saying, hey, you can't do this, put the child up. But I mean, do you know how many 15-year-olds actually had kids and kept their children, whether it was a good support system or not? It's not always the case that just because you're young you can't take care of your child. And I'm left to wonder. It's very puzzling to know this is the life that I was handed to me and the life that I'm expected to go with. And at the cool age of 24, I have to continue going along with this because they told me to. So when now you come into your own, now you step out on your own, you
Hmm.
still have to deal with the, like, well, how are they going to feel? Like, do you feel like that sometimes?
I do in a way. Yeah.
And how do
Yeah.
you handle that?
Um, Uh, it's alright, I guess. I mean, since I don't talk with them or anything like that, but I do kind of wonder, because once I dig into, me finding myself and, finding my biological family, is there going to be doors open or are they going to shut the door completely?
Yeah.
Far as my adopted parents, if they're
Mhm.
going to be willing to accept once I, open a door within my finding my biological parents. I don't
Do
know.
you do you wish you had their support in helping you find your biological parents?
I do.
Yeah. It would make things so much better if you had their support and if you had them to say, "Hey, Patrice, let me contact this person for you." Because if you really feel like you're my baby, the whole thought of you saying, "Don't forget about us," shouldn't even exist. If you
Yeah.
know you did your part as a parent and you
Hmm.
gave this child the very best, the whole thought of "Don't forget about us" should not even exist. And so that's where it becomes that's where I get annoyed, because why do you feel like that if you know you did your best when in raising me? Why not
Right.
help me on this journey so that I can find out who I am? Or is it your plan for me to never know, and you be okay with that even if I'm not? I mean, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like, I should be okay with this too, and I'm not. So as my
And I
mom and
think and I think that's probably what their plan is, honestly. I don't think they want me to find my biological family. They changed my brother full entire name.
oh, his
And
entire
they
name.
were gonna yes, his entire name. They changed his full entire name. And
Huh.
with mine, they were going to change my full entire name, but they knew that I um was responding with Patrice a lot and already knew how to spell it and everything, so they just decided to keep my first name and change my middle and last name.
When you learned that, Patrice, did you feel like even more of your identity was stripped away from you?
Yes, 100%. Except for my first name, because that was already given to me. So,
Right.
and that's what's on my
Because
birth certificate.
I know of situations where the adoptive family would change the child's name. Um, they at least kept your first name, but changed your middle and, of course, your last. But they completely changed your brother's name, completely, first, middle, and last.
Yes. Yes. Even though he was turning 13, throughout his childhood, he was called by his biological name. And then when we got adopted, they changed his whole name. And actually, what's
So
funny is
he
that
was
my foster mom, before the adopted parents got us, my foster mom had an issue with that because the adopted mother wanted to change his name, and she did, and told my foster mom to call him by his new name, and she was like, "No, because that's not how I know him."
okay. So hold on, let me just clear this up. So your foster family, I just want to get this straight. So your foster
Uh huh.
family
Uh huh.
different from your adopted family, and
Correct.
they wanted your adopted family wanted the foster family to call your brother by his new name when your
Mm-hmm.
foster family said absolutely not.
Correct.
Girl, what? And how old was he again when the adoption took place?
12. He was turning 13.
So he was 12 years old, and now you're changing his name after 12 years. So now, if he ignores you, you're going to have a problem with that because he's used to his name being George, and now you're calling him Billy, and he doesn't answer to Billy. Now, why do adoptive parents change the name? And I wonder, I
Now,
really,
I can say that the reasoning, what they told me was that they wanted us to um, be a family and kind of close within their family so that we can have their name and their legacy. But for me, I don't get that. I just don't get why you can't just add y'all last name to our name already. Why
Right,
change the whole
right.
entire
And
name?
why change the whole entire name? That is that's a different type of removing the child's identity, because not only does the child not have that biological bond, but now the child has to know that this isn't even the name that my biological family gave me. So now I'm really walking in your footsteps, which may or may not even be good because you felt like it. What does that? I just don't understand. I really would love to speak to an adoptive parent or adoptive parents who can really explain the need to do something like that, because why change the child's whole name? I don't understand that. That's not something that my parents did. Um, so it just leaves room to wonder why this is the thing. My adoptive parents were so cool, but my younger brother found, not even, I can't even say found because they lived down the street. But when they realized that his biological brothers lived right down the street, they used to come by the house all the time. It was just a matter of the brothers coming by to hang with the brother. It really was like another part of family. No one even cared. It was never a talk, it was never a discussion. But when you remove that from a child, when you really go so far to take that away from the child by changing their entire name, what is your purpose for that? I really wish I had an answer for that, because I don't understand why that would even be a thing. Were you upset when you learned that this wasn't my real middle name? This is why would you change my name? Did you feel any way about that?
I had a lot of questions upon it because honestly, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
well, I get it. I'm a child and y'all do what you can, but you're not even giving me a choice to say if I wanted
Right.
my whole name changed or, my partial name changed because I still have my first name.
Yeah.
But it's like that's stripping my whole entire, you're right, identity away.
How do you feel about the adoption laws? Because I know that in some states, like it was with Janine Jackson, her parents didn't even have to tell her. And I think that's in every state. But do you really feel like adoption laws should be amended, whereas the conversation is taking place with the child by a certain age and what it should look like for the child
Yes, I
following?
do.
Because
I do believe that if a child is wanting to know where they came from, by law, is at once, and I get it, they're trying to protect the adopted parents, but at the same time, you have to realize that it's not upon the adopted parents. It's the
yeah,
child. So once that child turns 17 or 18, they should be able to do what they want to do with their identity.
what do you think is an appropriate age to have the adoption talk with the child?
Honestly, whatever age that you get the child at. Say for instance, cuz for me when I get to my older ages, when I start having kids, I want to adopt a child. I do. Not just because of what I've been through, but it's something in my heart that I want to do. And yes, it's going to be a baggage of stuff. You might not know what all the
Mhm.
stuff may be with their history and stuff, but at least have an open eye.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for adoptive parents should be mandated to keep in contact with the biological family for the sake of the child. Again, it goes back to three parties involved and only two have to consent. Do you want to give away this child? Yes. Do you want to take this child? Yes. And no one is talking to the child. No one is telling the child at roughly 10 years old, hey, we need to sit down and talk. No one is telling the child, you need to find your biological family. No one is telling the child, turning the papers over to the child, hey, this is a lot about your life that we didn't discuss. No one is doing that. And so when you
Right.
do that, I think it would actually help the child grow up. Would you believe how many children fostered and adopted are now living under bridges, are now incarcerated, are now promiscuous, and so related to lives that none of us really want to live because of the fact that their identity has been stolen from them. So now you're
Yeah.
going so far out of your way to connect to somebody in some way just so you can have some connection. Why is that the case? Because the laws made it so simple to take away this child's existence.
Yeah. Because too, also you
This
have
is
to
an
think
option.
about with the law, like I don't even think they know, but like, okay, what if the child grows up and then they don't know, they don't know their blood, they don't know who they are within their background and all that. Then somehow they, they're an adult, getting older, they start dating, and then this is why we have problems in our community because somehow we figure out that that person that we're dating is actually blood related.
Yep. Yep. And the thing with that is the fact that if we're being honest, we know that it can happen even out, in a regular family with that stay
Hmm.
connected. Because if Papa's
Oh.
a Rolling Stone and he's having kids over there,
Hmm.
but and no one knows, it can still happen. But this is the problem: the whole separation of families. When you know that you made this child over there, and you're not even going to talk to your wife or your lady or your kids and say, "Hey, Daddy messed up. This is what I
Hmm.
did. You have another brother or sister. It's not fair that you don't know." But it's even worse in adoption because now the child does not know anything about themselves or their family. At least for the kids that stay with their family, they at least know their family. Oh, daddy had another one. All right, well, let's find out more about that. At least they
Hmm.
should be able to reach out and have a relationship with their brother and or sister. It doesn't make any sense that the adoption laws are so warped that they will completely
Hmm.
remove a child's identity and just leave it at that. Well, let them figure it out. And so when I contact the state of New York, and say,
Hmm.
hey, I want to know this information. Their response is, oh, well, this child has the right to take a DNA, or if they are registered with the adoption registry. Why are we going through all of this? Why?
Right.
It's so jacked up. And now here you
Mhm.
are putting the pieces together. I actually wish, Patrice, that I had started in, actually, no, I'm going to say I did start in my 20s. I want to say I was probably 22 at the time when I started to, well, actually, when I first registered with the New York State Adoption Registry. But the other part about that is that, and I don't know what it's like in California or what have you, but if the parent chose to keep their information private, the only thing they can provide to you is non identifying information. So
Mhm.
that's going to be another complication on top of, wow, how will I find out? Because you may not. And
Right.
it's not that you not, but you may have to go through, dig a lot deeper to find out these things because of the non-identifying information. It only makes it so much harder. How do you feel like, okay, so let me ask you this before I let you go. What would you tell adoptive parents, not your adoptive parents, but other adoptive parents who said, "Hey, Patrice, how should I go about this? What should I tell my child he's adopted? What should I do to make sure that they feel okay about knowing that they're adopted?" What would you tell adoptive parents?
I would tell them to first sit them down. Do not lie to them. Do not hold nothing back from them because either way it goes, if you try to hide it, they gon' go in there and try to force to find it themselves. They gonna do it themselves, honestly. But if you're upfront with them and
Yeah,
just tell them straight up every little thing, Every little thing counts, for sure. So I would just tell them that, just to be honest, straight up with them. I don't care if they're a
100%.
kid, toddler, or an adult.
Yeah.
They need to know who they are.
I feel right. And to add to that, I feel like if you are going to have a problem with letting this child know about their adoption and giving them everything that they're supposed to have, don't adopt. Don't adopt. If you are not going in it with the intentions of being completely transparent with the child and talking to the child to let them know the ins and outs of who they are. And if you're not willing to support them in search of finding their biological family later on in life, or even now, leave the child alone. And to add to that, what I would tell the United States of America is to fix the daggone laws so that the child or the adoptive parents can't hold the information from the child, because y'all aren't helping either.
Exactly.
It, you know, and then you're wondering why this child would do something like that. Why is this child in jail? Because you stole from this child. Why is she a teenage mom? Because you stole from this child and you allowed this child to be molested. You allowed this child to be run with gangs. You allowed it because you did not give this child any chance at life by lying to them and making it okay for the adoptive parents to lie to them. So thank you, America, for knowing that you don't have to do anything to lessen the crime, because a lot of these kids and a lot of people who commit crimes grow up in abusive homes, whether adopted or not. They were molested. So many things that they've experienced earlier in life that was traumatic for them has led them to be who they are today. And then you don't like it, but you get to talk bad about them when you provided this child no help at all whatsoever. Thank you, America. It's unfortunate, and that's the reason why I love to hear that in this journey that you are now focused on, you get to walk with your head held high, you get to walk with your dignity, and you get to say, I'm going to document this journey that I'm on, and I don't care who doesn't like it. Because if you're not with me, you're against me. And if you're against me, I'm glad to know that, because that means you can't go with me. And we all have different paths. Totally fine.
Exactly.
But now that I know you can be on this path with me, and I to that I say keep going. Don't feel that you owe anybody anything. Do what feels good to you. Do what's good for you and do what makes you happy. And if documenting your adoption journey and searching for your biological family and all of those things, do it and don't stop, because you're not going to make everyone happy. You're just not. If you didn't search, somebody's not going to be happy. If you did search, somebody's not going to be happy. You have to really put yourself front and center and say, what do I have to do for Patrice? And whatever that is, that's what you do. And so when it comes to your documentary, I encourage you to do that. I'm glad that you're doing it.
Thank
And
you.
of course, Patrice, throw out your handles so that we can make sure everyone knows how they can follow you and keep up with you.
All right, on Instagram at the real Patrice Hudson, um, TikTok, Facebook, they're all the same at the real Patrice Hudson. And also, I did write um a book called A Journey of Resilience. My first book I published out in February with my
Oh,
experience as
congratulations. Now
being
tell us.
adoptee and um as being a foster care kid and an adoptee and my
Now, where are we
experience.
going to go to find this book?
On Amazon, just put in A Journey of Resilience by Patrice, and I'll be the first one to pop up.
So now we have that information. We know how we can keep in touch with you. And I want, before we end this, I want other adoptees to know that you're not the only one. We are in this together. And that's the whole point of the Black Adoptees Meetup, because not only do we bond culturally, but we also bond through adoption. And it's necessary I've said it before we started recording. It was the thing I didn't know I needed, because you have that space. You're in a space. You have that community where it's like, oh my God, I finally fit in. And it's a better feeling of fitting in an environment like that where you have no DNA connection than actually fitting in with your adoptive family where you also have no DNA connection. Because now I fit in with people who understand my story, people whose stories are similar to mine, opposed to growing up in an adoptive home where I don't have any DNA connection to these people, but they don't even understand me. So the Black Adoptees Meetup, which will be held in Philadelphia next year, let your other adoptee friends know if you have any. If you're Black and adopted like we are, you definitely want to be there for the next Black Adoptees meetup. And Patrice, thank you so much for speaking with me today. Um, Stories like this should not go unheard. They should not be, not talked about. We should actually talk about it more so that we can put focus on what adoption really looked like and the impact it has on the child because it's not fair to us. And so to that, I want to say thank you. If you have any last words, girl, go ahead because I can keep talking. But go ahead and if you have anything to say.
No, I'm good.
Well, I just want to say thank you. Y'all know we got to get the book. We got to get the book. I'm gonna have to get the book, and we're gonna keep following you, so that we can watch the documentary when it's released and read your book. And y'all head on over to Amazon, get the book. Here it is, and we want to make sure we support in every way we can. So thank you so much, Patrice. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for having me.